Dorothea Lange was an American photography director, most well known for her documentation of the mass effects the Great Depression had on the average American citizen. Lange has been working in photography as early as 1918, using the profits from her craft to continue traveling the country until she sat down in San Francisco in the early 1930s. It was in San Francisco that she took one of her most well-known photographs of a man waiting in the White Angel Jungle soup kitchen line. This 1933 image of the line has some of the best lineup and composition of any of Lange's ethically evaluative photos, because of the way the subject's face and posture stand out from the near uniform backs of the other men in the image, really framing the subject nicely and putting the most focus on him, and more specifically, his somber face. This fateful photograph garnered a lot of attention to Lange. After working more in San Francisco, she was given a job photographing the effects on rural counties by the government, which led to her most recognized photo in 1936 titled Migrant Mother, of a mother and her children who were desperate for food on their barren pea farm. This image was so successful in being ethically evaluative as well, and it's easy to see why. The lighting perfectly accentuates the mother's worry lines, while her dark hair and surroundings frame her face. The usage of the children laying their heads on her shoulder also do a great deal to illustrate the burden that she carries on her back, namely, how to provide for her family in such trying times. The lack of context in the background also allows the viewer to interpret specifically what the mother is worrying about, especially those unfamiliar with the time period in which this was shot. Lange continued to use this method of photography throughout the majority of her career, taking images of citizens across the country. Some of her lesser-known works include The Longshoreman's Lunch Hour, as well as Skid Row. While The Longshoreman's Lunch Hour isn't particularly pertaining to the Depression, the way that each of the elements of the photo come together so well to balance each other out without feeling too crowded is still very impressive. Skid Row masterfully uses negative space to put the most focus on the silhouette of the subject. The way their dark suits contrast with the pale street also help to accentuate their shapes, as well as the dirt and other stains on their clothes. The lack of context for this image besides the title also leaves a lot of room for viewer interpretation. Similarly using negative space is her image titled Tractored Out, which shows one of the barren farmlands she visited in the Dust Bowl. This image is also a great example of the usage of the rule of thirds as well as side lighting, which in the case of this image accentuates the texture of the dirt and barn in the distance. Overall, Lange's work has been well known for its ethically evaluative nature, as well as the numerous photography skills she demonstrates in her black and white galleries. While she didn't have the opportunity to use color in her photographs, the lack of color taken by her Graflex camera actually works very well in her favor to cater towards a more somber mood in her photos, as well as pushing the highlights, shadows, and textures of her many subjects and scenes. Lange's work did a great deal in bringing attention to the suffering caused by the Great Depression by personalizing the suffering and individualizing those who found themselves as part of a larger statistic, and has landed herself a well-deserved spot as one of the most well-known photographers throughout history.